is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 126. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. He's sitting here, rainy Sunday afternoon in Austin, Texas, coming off last night's 2-2 draw once again at Q2 Stadium, this time against the Philadelphia Union. I will ask you, as I always do, how you feeling today, my friend?
Little out of it, a little tired. It was a long weekend with South by and all the events and everything like that. Had a good time at the match last night. I want to shout out our friends Aaron and Emily there in section 123 for helping us out with another ticket so I could get my buddy Mitch there, or our buddy Mitch, our good buddy Mitch. I know he had a good time, so definitely shout out to them. Again, I think a lot of really positive things to take away from this game. We played a very hungry team. It was a physical match. I think there's a lot to look at that is positive. I know that the result wasn't exactly what we were looking for once again, but we're still building this thing right now, and getting 10 back into that rotation is the most important thing. And to see him out there last night coming on for a little bit was encouraging, and also somewhat discouraging when we get into his form there. But I'm ready to jump into it and talk about this match and everything else we got on the docket here.
Yeah, man, I will say you definitely sound like you just took in an Austin FC plus South by weekend. Can definitely tell.
Yeah,
Getting some extra sleep here tonight, probably, I think. But we'll make it through, everybody. Let's jump into this one. We, of course, recapping this match, recapping the FCTO season opener from Friday, a couple other things to touch on. But before we start, just want to remind you, if you've got 5 extra seconds, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Help us grow the podcast in that manner. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, which you can also do by leaving a comment. So any and all of that you would do for us, we would appreciate. Atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the confetti of the North End, as Bradley Scott Stuver did last night. We'll talk about that, E. First, we had Jimmy Farkaloon signed to a second short-term loan agreement coming into match day. That was announced on Friday afternoon. So number 2 of 4 in terms of those short-term call-ups for Jimmy. And he was on the bench. Injury report, Leo, of course, still out. Seba, of course, still questionable. But we did see Driussi in some content this week that was actual drills and not just like smiling in the warm-ups, right? And showing that he's doing some things. So we did think he was going to make his appearance. He was off the bench once again. And like you mentioned, does come in later in this match. But starting group, different from last week, right? We kind of expected maybe rolling the same thing out there. We had a couple changes. First, on that back line, of course, Stu in the net, but Guilherme Biru makes his first start as a member of Austin FC there on the left. In there for Jan Kolmanic. You still had Johan Ring, and then Danny Pereira in there, and not in there for Diego Rubio, but Diego Rubio up to the 9 in place of Giassi Zardes, and designated player Emiliano Rigoni back in there for Ethan Finley. So Hodder Obrian on the right, Emmy on the left. Bench of Cleveland, Jimenez, Heinzike, Kolmanic, Wolf, Finley, Driussi, Farkaloon, and Giassi Zardes. What were your thoughts on the lineup when this dropped on Saturday evening?
I mean, I was on record before this match that I was looking for, if not the same 11, something that was very similar to it. And this coaching staff keeps making changes to try to find ways to generate more chances. And this was the most amount of chances that we've had all season versus a talented Philadelphia club. I was more interested in seeing like who they were about to roll out with their 11, and they rolled out their choice 11 100%. And right off the rip, you could tell that this team was locked in, really looking for a victory here. We can start with Jimmy, man. You know, I am a big Jimmy fan. He came on hot. He really set the world on fire here for Austin FC fanhood. But at the same time, the expectation needs to be reeled in quite a bit, because if this kid was more talented, a serviceable level MLS player,
right,
he would be
more ready for the
yeah,
level,
he would
right?
be getting that time. And again, the coaching staff gets to see him all the time. They saw him all preseason, and yes, he had some fantastic performances, but that doesn't necessarily translate right away to getting big time minutes in arguably another must-win game at this point, because we have one win in our last 17 matchups. So everything is almost a must-win game when you're this starved for it. So I'm excited for the potential that Jimmy has. I don't think he's ready. Now let's get into the people who did start. It's tough to see Rigoni out there, man. It's tough to see him starting with that first 11. We have had the longest leash of almost any fan in this fan base for him.
I was saying that last night.
Yeah,
Like,
and rightfully so, that we've been wrong about it. And when he came in, and everyone talked about the fact that he wasn't necessarily a goal scorer, but a chance creator, and he's not creating these chances for his teammates. And if you're not doing that, and you're not putting the ball in the back of the net, it's just hard to get excited to see when he's out there with that starting lineup. But again, after some more changes and adjustments are made, you start to see more and more chances coming along from this team after a little while. So there's a lot that we need to unpack with Rigoni and what we're going to do with him moving forward, and the depth at that position right now. I think that the substitution window definitely got messed up with the Komanic injury that we'll get into a little later. And there's still some miscommunication things, some guys still working out where they expect the other player to be, particularly with Rigoni and Biru on that one side. And you see Biru with several turnovers in this first half, where part of it, I think, is definitely on Biru for some bad balls and some mistimed errors and things of that nature. But Rigoni is consistently not tracking back to the ball, because a lot of times he's trying to avoid being on the ball because he doesn't want to be in that situation, particularly in the attacking third, which is where we need him most. And just another disappointing showing from him. But again, I thought that I was satisfied with the coaching staff willing to be flexible in who they're going to start with that first 11 to try to get anything rolling for us here. So the unfortunate PK sets us back early, but it was another solid showing from this club. And shout out to all the fans, man, because despite the weather reports and despite the fact that South by was going on, that place was packed. The energy was great. So it's disappointing to only walk away with one, but we're on good footing. You look at that table out there in the West, and there's plenty of spots to move up, plenty of places to move up. There's a lot of teams who aren't very satisfied with their current form. And I mean, even this Philadelphia team, me and you were perusing their socials before the matchup, looking for their lineups and everything. And you see Curtin out in there, and you see people calling for the coach's head. And it's like, man, we're not that unique in that regard. So, man, it would have been great to get 3, but I was satisfied with the first 11. That's probably the longest answer I've ever given for a first 11 take there.
All right, so let's get into the game here, and we'll just jump to the 8th minute because this is where Philly wins their second free kick early on in this match to the right of the area here, probably 12 yards out, and Kai Wagner whips that one in. It skims across the face of net, like takes a bounce right in front of Brad, and Damian Lowe probably should have put this away. So again, early on, Philly really in control of this match, and I was certainly feeling like we got lucky to escape that one with the clean sheet still intact.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, they came out swinging, and this was one of the more physical matches that we've ever seen Austin be a part of. They were really physical with us, and some players handled it well, some players didn't. We lost our cool every now and then, but this was a very dangerous chance where we were fortunate to not be down 1-0 early.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long, though. 10th minute here, and Biru plays a very dangerous ball. I guess there's a couple other words that were crossing my mind I could use for that, but we'll just keep it at dangerous.
Okay.
Mikel Ure can't quite get there, but it does cause that scramble does cause Cascante to kind of boot it out and right back to Philly. So off that turnover, they're back on the attack. And Valencia gets whistled for a foul just outside the 18 to the right of net. And this one, 2-3 yards maybe outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
I assume this was an indirect free kick here because Philly sets up, they tap it to one guy and then he just kind of sets it up, like places it for Kai Wagner to have a go. And that shot is deflected and it goes out for a corner. And then, with the week 4 bets, we took the over on corners once again. So we're like, all right, one corner. We don't like to see it, but that's what's been going on. And then the official is listening to the earpiece, right? And we immediately are like, all right, well, he's listening. Let's pull up the replay. And I have seen this be fairly controversial, I think, for the fans this morning because, number one, I guess we should just say, it hits Alex Ring on the arm as he and Guilherme Biru, who I think himself didn't really come out with the best form defensively here because, again, on that tap that Philly did to set up the shot off the free kick, Ring and Biru kind of rush the spot there. And Biru's got his hands above his head when this shot is taken. And Alex kind of recoils a little bit, kind of curls, turns to the side. And I don't know if we have a clear angle of it hitting Alex's arm in a way that it impeded the shot in an unnatural position. And again, I think the more I watch soccer, the more confused I am sometimes it feels about what is and what is not a handball in the box. Because I think I don't have any trouble really coming away from it thinking that this was a handball. The fact it was given as a penalty, there is an angle that shows he's very much in the box when the contact is made there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching DC and Miami yesterday, man, and there was a handball that definitely affected the play more so in that match that was not called and directly led to a Miami goal on the other end. And so, again, I just think, and then we could obviously go into the conversation about the officials, which, again, I thought they were shit again last night. We are very lucky, I think, that it has not affected, in my opinion, the officiating hasn't affected the outcome of any of our matches, but it certainly has affected the outcome of some other matches. And again, I just pay the fucking refs, man. We are 100% on board that train, as we have been, but it grows with each passing match day for me.
I mean, it's something that's eventually going to happen where it's going to directly impact the game and it's going to be really shitty for us. And yes, 100%. This is just nauseating to see these replacement officials out here during arguably the most important season in league history. Now to the handball, you just can't put yourself in that position if you're Biru. You've lost all your fundamentals. Your hands are high. You got your hands over your head. There's no real explanation for that. You got to keep your fundamentals there.
Well, so it doesn't. I agree. I don't know if because we thought in the stadium, right, that it had deflected off of Biru. Upon review, it hits Alex. It does not hit Biru. But I still wanted to bring up Biru's hands there because on the first angle that they showed on the replay and if rewatching the match, I was like, yeah, it goes off Biru, but no, it does. It hits Alex. So I think Guilherme got a little lucky there because again, he was kind of flailing.
Okay. And I mean, initially in the stadium, my first takeaway was obviously we thought it was on Biru, and I thought maybe the potential was that he wasn't in the actual box and was out of that threatening position where we could have gotten another one, which who knows what could happen there. But yeah, it sucks to be, giving a team a PK that early when you're a team that has struggled to score all season. So tough. Poor Bradley Stuber, man.
Yeah, well, and there's certainly a big difference in the pen that Alex concedes here compared to last week, right?
Absolutely.
Last week, I put that on him. This one, it's pretty natural to recoil as he did, even as a professional soccer player, when somebody is ripping a free kick right at you from 6 yards at that point because he was closing things down. But fact is, second pin conceded in as many weeks for Alex Ring. And I'm sure we'll talk about him more as we go, but let's keep moving. 16th minute here. Austin, crossing right to left to Rigoni with space. And he ducks inside, past 2, then 3 defenders, finally decides to shoot. I thought he had a couple windows before he actually pulled the trigger. Damian Lowe slides in, blocks the shot cleanly at the top of the box, but Austin stays in possession here. I thought it was a pretty slick ball inside to Obrian from Alex Ring. Obi, heavy first touch, which I said in the stands last night, man. I think we just have to calibrate our expectations to balls coming to Obi. It's 50-50 whether or not he makes a touch that is going to allow him to keep possession there. But he takes some contact here, goes down, and I thought we both said at the time and on the rewatch definitely confirmed, like I thought there was nothing in that. But at this point, 5 minutes after the goal or so, you can see that Philly is starting to settle more into kind of a mid-block type look rather than that customary higher pressing style that we see from them. Again, they're not the New York Red Bulls with their press, but they are still very aggressive.
Absolutely. And that diamond midfield that they run in the middle there was giving us fits all night. It was taking away our outlet passes. It was taking away our outlet valve to get the ball up the field. But I was pretty satisfied with our response after the PK. I thought that we showed some good fight here. And with the Rigoni shot, I agree. I thought he had some time to let one go before, he really started to get to the middle of that defense and everything starts to condense a little more. And obviously the gravitational pull of the defense towards the ball starts to happen. But he's always just been hesitant with those shots.
Yeah. And we can just keep moving here. 21st minute.
Yep.
Kai Wagner whips in a ball from the left towards that back post on the right. He does find the head of a pretty wide open Julian Carranza, and luckily Brad right there to cradle it 5 minutes later after a goal kick. Diego Rubio drops in, receives a pass from John Gallagher, and Diego one times it on to Ring. Diego takes a foul. Advantage is played while Alex whips it again right to left to Rigoni. And Rigoni here sets up a cross that sails. It might as well have been into the Captain Morgan Club. It bounces harmlessly on the other side of the 18 out for a Philadelphia throw. But I think it makes some sense to think that Philadelphia was maybe trying to force, on one end, force the attack towards Guilherme Biru, because I think as we progress through this first half, you kind of hinted earlier on that he looked a little shaky at times. But I think on the other side, maybe we were focusing more on, rather than progressing up that right side to hot air, that we're flipping it right to left to stay away from Kai Wagner and try to attack who we perceive to be the weaker of their two fullbacks in Nathaniel Harriel. So I think maybe that's why we saw so many balls coming that way. It also could have been that Philly was like welcoming that, like, yeah, give the ball to fucking Rigoni. But I don't know, man, your thoughts there, because this obviously is not the first or the last frustration we had with him on the night. And like, I think if anybody drew the ire of the fan base last night, it was Emiliano Rigoni again, for probably the second time this season, outside of the people that are just going to, anything bad happens, coach. Which again, the coaching staff, I don't think, certainly hold some, their typical responsibility here for not getting a win at home. But Rigoni right now, man, we will continue to talk about him throughout this episode. What do you got for me right now?
He's just got no confidence, and like, there's a reason why he has no confidence. He hasn't performed at all, and I'm fine with that. If like they were giving us that, you got to take what the defense gives you sometimes. But there's also multiple times where those balls are they're sailing out of bounds, like they're flying out of bounds, and we're turning the ball over. And Biru had his own turnovers in that back half. But even on the changes, I think our success rate on changing the field like that had to be lower than 50%. On if the ball actually stayed in bounds and we got it to somebody. And again, even when Rigoni does bring that down and gets the ball, he doesn't translate that into something that's actually productive. So, I mean, it's run its course, man. Like, and I know that we have to play this out with his contract and that he's just getting paid too much where we can't buy him out or do anything with him. And at that point, if that's the situation, you're still going to have to try to play him when you give a good, clean look at the depth of this roster. And obviously you can't predict the Komanic injury later, but if Finley was in there, I don't know, man. That's just a little more pressure on that right side with Harriel. And like, who knows what happens? Obviously, we can't get into the ifs and everything like that, but we just need something better, man. And like, the thing that's really sticks out for me, right, is you look at Rigoni's work rate and you look at somebody like Rubio, and like Rubio obviously is going to be on the farthest end of that spectrum because this man is busting his ass all the time. And he's somebody who is embracing that physicality, walking into it. You're touching me. All right, I'm gonna touch you back. Like, let's go do this. Let's run this up. And Rigoni avoids all that. He's never involved in it. And like, that is not a talent thing. You know, that is not a I'm struggling to score thing. That is not a I'm struggling to put productive balls into the mix. That is just a mindset. That is a mentality thing. That is a mentality thing 100%. And you can change that, man. And like, I don't know, sometimes you need to get put on your ass by a defender. Like, you need to take a little contact, get hit, like welcome yourself into the game. And he is just right now avoids all of that responsibility. And that is my biggest gripe with him. Like, I understand that the production is shit. I understand that the service is shit, but you still can be a teammate that brings something to the pitch outside of that stuff. And I don't know if he had it in prior stops during his career, but he so clearly does not have it. And it's just also concerning that Diego Rubio is the dude who gives a shit the most on that outfield play, like particularly with the attackers, because obviously, you know, Bradley Scott Stuver is out there standing on his head, doing whatever he can. Johan, I thought the defensive line again was really sound. Cascante and Hedges have put in some seriously quality minutes this year, and you know, when you're a team that is just not that talented, you can't have these little mishaps. You can't have these turnovers and these things that don't lead to any sort of production for the club.
One thing that you wouldn't have known in the stadium, but you definitely heard on the rewatch, not the first time here after the that Rigoni cross, that they mentioned the wrong, like, we've got Biru's name down now, right? Calling him Guilherme Biru. But the league site, and apparently what these announcers are looking at, has the date of birth and the height of the other Guilherme Biru, who is 19 years old, also a Brazilian, but a completely different person. They have him listed on the, and again, this is on the team page, but the team roster page is managed by the league, right? It says that Guilherme Biru is 5'7" and 19 years old. And they continuously reference him as a teenager coming over from Brazil. It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
He's like 6'2". I don't know what. He's big. You know, he's a big guy.
He is big. And man, you know, and he has shown so many encouraging things too. Like we've talked about his ball skill, the ability to make some fakes, some feints and everything to like create space and everything. And unfortunately, it was not his best match.
33rd minute here, yellow card to Quinn Sullivan for taking out Hodder Obrian. But then Diego Rubio gets hit in the face away from the play. I don't think they had an angle on this because they kept saying, you know, let's see if we can catch anything on the replay here. And all they're doing is showing the angle of Obrian getting taken out. I don't know if there was anything in that without seeing a replay because nobody was looking at it.
Yeah.
But the players certainly react. You know, Julio was adamant that something went down there. So
refs lost control of this game immediately. This was the game where they lost control the fastest that I've seen this season. And this guy was just out of his element, Donnie. Like, he was not able to handle this level of play. And that is just such a fucking problem. And like, North End Pirate Brian, who is a soccer official, is on record. And this is the first time I've ever really heard him say something along the lines of like, you know, the officials cost us that game. And when he talked about it a little more, obviously we're a bit inebriated at this point and, you know, hanging out the stadium, just clapping for the boys and all that. But he brought up and mentioned how often play was being stopped and like how often fouls were then being missed and then brought back and everything, and just really ruining the flow of this game. And this officiating crew was terrible. There's a call later on where There's a guy, the side judge is right there. He can see the play. He doesn't call a foul. Homeboy comes running from half field, blows his whistle, pulls out a yellow. And it was just like, dude, come on, this can't be what we're looking at out here.
Yeah.
This can't be our product.
Yeah, I'm with you. 37th minute here. This is maybe the only thing I've seen Diego Rubio do that I haven't been extremely excited about or pleased with. Philly turnover here. Finds Rubio leading a 3-on-2 break in the offensive third. He's got Danny wide open on his left, and instead skies a shot into section 124. And like, I don't have so much of an issue with the decision to take a shot from the top of the box. Like, he had the angle. If that shot is more, controlled, it's probably on frame. But it just, the poor hit just further accentuates how open Danny was. And like, for all of the talking that Danny does to the refs or just being demonstrative in general, the fact that he didn't turn to Diego and be like, yo, motherfucker, like, that was maybe going to be the easiest shot on goal that Danny has had. He was in by himself if he just plays a little bit of a weighted pass there on the left. And so that was, again, the lone disappointment for me from Diego Rubio in the night. It's not why we lost the game, but I think he can do better there. I imagine when they watch that on film, he'll want it back.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight, definitely 2020, and Danny is wide open. I think it's a frustration thing. We hadn't really had any shots on net at this point or shots on goal. And, he's pushing the envelope a little bit and sails one. I know that he could have done better with it. He immediately turns around, throws his hand up, knew he made a mistake. And again, when your margin of error is this small and this thin, you need those plays to go the right way for us. And it did not.
42nd minute here. Stuver nabs a corner out of the air, tries the long throw action out to Obrian, and they can't quite connect there. But I do like that new opportunistic bit of our game plan. Obviously that's not new this week. But again, I think it's, especially when we're playing more defensive like we were in this first half, it's something that we should continue to see in the next minute. Austin really closing the first half on the front foot, I thought. Emmy taps a pass into the area for an overlapping Biru, and Harriel slides and makes contact. Biru stays upright, crosses it to Obi, who lays it off for Emmy once again, and then Emmy's shot gets deflected out by Damian Lowe for a corner. And I thought in the moment and on the replay that Biru could have, if he just goes down, I think it's a penalty because there is contact there on the slide from Harriel. He misses the ball, and like, I definitely appreciate the mindset of like, I'm not just going to fall down, when there's just a little breeze, right? But there's also something to like having that tactical mindset of like, I'm feeling the contact and going down. So it's a tough kind of tightrope to walk there, but and hindsight is always 2020, but I think you probably earn a penalty there if he goes down. And it looked like Hodder Obrian tells him that on the replay. And that corner, which was Austin's first, I guess I'll let you try to separate your responses here. That one was played short from Danny, who was taking the corner, to Rigoni, who's standing right next to him, telegraphed 100%. He puts in another attempt that ends up being awful because if you can't clear that first defender, then what are we doing?
Then we're in a complete defensive liability situation where we have Danny behind the ball. Rigoni's right there. The service is absolutely abysmal. I don't even know why Danny's on that, man, because he's not going to kick it. He's not, like I said it right to you right before I was like,
so he's not playing it in.
Why is Danny over there? Like, this is 100% going to be short. Their scouting report knows that. And then on top of that, you compound it with the just absolutely abysmal attempt by Rigoni to get this ball into the mix. And this is, it's countless times where we've seen him either on corners not deliver a ball that gets over the first line of defense. Let's jump back to Biru there. Aziel Jackson would have died if this happened to him. I understand Obrian telling him to go down because of the difference in stature, and that's definitely part of Obi's game is to to accentuate and make it look worse. Hey man, I'm a tiny guy. I just got shoved by this bigger dude. So again, yes, I understand the mindset thing there. It would have been fortunate for him to go down because I definitely think we're getting a PK. And like, look, the refs are going to be what the refs are going to be, right? This is out of our control. So how do we respond and how do we adapt? Forcing their hand in that situation, I think, is advantageous. Make them make the call, put them on the spot, be like, we just gave up a PK on the other side. You're probably going to get one there. So again, margin of error is this thin, and this doesn't go our way.
For first minute of stoppage, Austin wins a throw in the offensive third. Galley takes it, gets the long throw, gets the skip off the head that we want to see. Ball falls to the feet of Johan Valencia right at the penalty spot, and he straight up whiffs this one. I was pretty loudly and maybe obnoxiously laughing in the north end when that happened, just because it's like, oh man, we can't connect with that. And like on the replay, I think the bounce was a little bit tougher than I gave him credit for in the moment. Mm-hmm. Still, that's got to be, if you're out there, that has to be a shot. Yep. Even if it's not on frame, it probably should be, but like it has to be a shot. And we don't get anything. We close out the half with yellow cards to Carranza and Biru, but yeah, it was just like, oh man, we need some adjustments.
I mean, we just have so many dudes in the midfield who are absolutely non-threats on offense. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to take away from what Johan has done this season and the way that he's come on, but him, Alex, and Danny, they're just not giving you much on the offensive side of the ball between the three of them. And they have just such overlapping talents. And when 10 is not in there, it just becomes magnified to see their lack of offensive threat here. Obviously, seeing the ball come in from our vantage point and our angle is much easier to be like, oh, yeah, you should have got a good foot on this. Where when you're in the scrum, you're in the mix, maybe that ball sneaks up on you a little bit faster, but you have to do better. You have to do better with it. And unfortunately, he doesn't. And that's just not part of his game, you know, and like we're asking him to do it because we're so limited offensively right now. And it's just a compounding factor of the fact that we're not getting any production from DP7. Yeah. And he has to, because Johan is doing his job outside of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like he's doing what he's supposed to do. Yeah. And, you know, you wish it was a better attempt, but it wasn't. I was encouraged with the end of that half. I like how Johnny is pretty much stepping a full foot onto those throw-ins onto the field when he's throwing the ball in play. So it was a good close to the half and building into the second half here. And Philly starts to switch a little bit, make some adjustments. They're kind of being a little less aggressive than they were initially. So difficult.
Yeah, and we do get the two changes at the half, which were quite important. John Kolmanich comes in for Guilherme Biru, and Owen Wolf comes on. I almost said Owen Valencia for Johan Valencia. And Austin, first of all, immediately wins a corner, aggressive drive on the left side of the box from Alex Ring. Don't get anything out of it, but immediately takes control of the game. Mm-hmm. And well, you know, moving Danny back to the 6 there and putting Owen a little bit more forward changed a lot for us. And it is, I think it's a good problem to have, and it's a bad problem to have, where we have depth in the midfield, where we're not pigeonholed into like, okay, well, these are the only, even with Driussi out, it's like, these are the only 3 guys we can start there. That's not the case, but we don't really have anybody who's a two-way midfielder, if that term is acceptable here in the soccer space. Like Johan, we know the offensive deficiencies. And I think since the latter third of last season, I would say he's been maybe not elite defensively, but above average would be putting it lightly, I think. Mm-hmm. Danny Pereira, we were very excited to see him play in a more advanced position this year. I think that has crashed and burned through the first 4 matches. Like some of these things, I'm not writing off completely, like Danny playing more forward. And secondly, Alex Ring, maybe Father Time catching up to him. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not saying those are absolutes right now, but you have to put something on film to convince me otherwise. And so like, until we see that, that's my opinion on those 2 players. And then Owen Wolf has been inconsistent when we've seen him play, especially more as that like lone 10, or not lone 10, but more advanced than Alex Ring when he's paired with him. We haven't seen, I thought until last night, a ton of positives out of him at that spot. So it's,
I mean, even if we didn't have guys,
we're in right now for the midfield, because there are pros that each one of these guys bring to the midfield, and there are stark negatives, very clear negatives that other teams can scout and take advantage of, and I think they have to this point of the season.
Danny is so uncomfortable in that role, in that position. He just does not look like himself when he's that advanced and trying to figure out. And like, it doesn't help, again, compounding with Rigoni, that, you're not getting that type of offensive play to work off of. So like, you look at the midfield guys, and you brought up, like having a two-way kind of guy. I mean, shit, even if we had one-way kind of guy and his one way was offensively, at this point, that would be huge, because we have 4 guys who are much more defensively minded in that position. So it's really highlighting the lack of talent offensively for this club, with us just trying to make anything work. And I remember coming out of half, and I said, go 2 striker. I thought it might've been time for that, because like, we have to be able to generate some sort of offense on that side of the ball. And it's just not coming from the midfield. And like you said, I don't know if I want to write off the Danny experiment up for further up, but it's been a disaster up until this point, and there's been nothing positive that has come from it.
And we've seen a lot of positivity, I think. And again, that's all relative, but game 1, we stopped the bleeding when Danny moved further back into that more, I don't know if it's his natural position, because we're trying to play him further forward, but the position that he's been in with this team, that we found success, whether it was in a year where we're soaring in 2022 and Danny's killing it, or Danny was killing it for at least the better part of the first half of last year. And we're going into the League's Cup break in 5th place, and Danny's back there, right? So like, I don't know, man, it's a tough spot. Like, being able to figure out this midfield is maybe one of the biggest challenges facing this coaching staff right now, and putting the players in positions to be successful. You got to figure that out.
We have to. And like, the only unit that we have gotten really consistent play out of is keeper and the back line. Like, we're trying to figure out a lot of different things, and Rubio as well. The man, I can't say enough good things about this dude. I love watching him play. He's awesome.
He's like,
but
one-man positional unit right now.
it is a nightmare in the midfield, especially when you add in the fact that we have careless turnovers out of that spot as well. And that just makes everything worse for us. And we're consistently on the back heel. But I thought that, if you went to a 2-striker look here, you brought G in with Rubio, maybe we try something a little different. Maybe it looks a little different, but we're just limited, man, with who we have available.
Yeah, we're about to be even more limited, because in the 52nd minute here, Kolmanich goes down while on the edge of his own box after playing kind of like trying like a little half clearance there, immediately goes down, grabbing at his hamstring. I'm not sure how long he'll be out. It's definitely next week, but the fact that he walked off under his own power, obviously limping, but like with more serious soft tissue issues like that, injuries rather, you can see guys having to be helped off, right? Hopping off on one leg, on crutches the next day. Obviously, we haven't seen him today, but I think it probably, hopefully, maybe it's just my fingers crossed here, that it could have been way worse. So I hope that's not a long-term thing, just a couple weeks. And Hector Jimenez replaces Jean Kolmanich, which moves Galley over to the left side, Hector on the right. And who would have known, man?
The spark.
Yeah.
Super sub Hector. With the Kolmanich injury, the way he reacted really gave me cause for concern, because he was down, hands over his face, hitting the turf. Like it looked way worse. So definitely encouraging to see him walk off on his own power, but we'll be shorthanded.
Yep. But 56th minute here, Alex Ring matriculates up the left sideline. He gets it to Owen Wolff in the middle, who I thought did well with his positioning last night, and we can continue talking about Owen as we go here, but he made a very good read here to slide more towards left center here, gets the ball from Alex, and then Owen slides it onto Hector, who's got a ton of space on the right. Hector Jimenez measures that cross from right to left. It bounces in the middle of the box, skips past a clearance attempt from Damian Lowe, and then Diego Rubio in there like a rocket, heads it into the back of the net. And then Rubio, he's racking him up, man. I told you I'm worried about this, but yeah, he essentially gets a yellow card for just MFing the ref after we scored. I don't know what he was upset about. I dig the fire out of him, right? Obviously, but again, at this rate, I think that's his third yellow card,
at
least the second, and so like he's on pace to miss. I don't know, the San Jose match in 2 games. Like we cannot lose him on the field. This is why in the first match I was like, bro, I respect the mentality, and maybe that's part of why he has been such a good player in his career, is because it doesn't turn off for him.
Nope.
Right?
I don't think he can turn it off.
But I told you he's gonna miss games, and it's gonna happen sooner rather than later.
You called that earliest and probably first. Yeah, dude. He, I mean, he also took a beating last night. Like he usually takes beating, but he took an extra whooping last night, and he gets into it with a couple of these Philly dudes. And man, I'd be frustrated at these refs too. Like, you know, and to his credit, you know, he's not going to back down from anybody. He's not going to back down from any situation. But again, it's that controlled rage. You have to be able to bring in it. You have to be able to leash it at some point in time, especially after you score a goal, man. Like, something just went well for us here. Like, you know, but again, I don't think he can turn it off, man. That's who he is. That's how he's going to play.
Well, Austin kept it turned on here because on their very next possession, what in the world? Like Owen and Hot Air combine on the left, and then Owen ends up getting some space down on the right side of that box, crosses it into the area towards that penalty spot. Ball takes a couple deflections there, it looks like, but John Gallagher crashing the box, picks up the loose ball, slots it home. Both O'Brien and Wolf already celebrating as Galley shoots that ball, knowing it's going into the back of the net. And in the span of 3 minutes, Austin is leading 2-1. The fucking party is on, man. Like, we have not had that type of energy in that stadium for a long time.
For a very, very long time. And my apologies to the sweet grandmother who I accidentally spilled beer all over. I'm sorry about that. But let's go back to the first goal here, right? And the thing with Hector, obviously he's very limited. He's old. He understands his role in the team. He's a pseudo coach almost. But you don't have to be a fucking soccer savant to just get the ball off your foot and into the mix. And that's just another thing with Rigoni. Like, the timing is always off because he doesn't want to do that. And he wants to put a little dribble moved out and like try to get it into the box. And now timing is all thrown off. Hector, it's direct. It's coming. This is how we play. That's part of it. Like, coach talks about it in the press game or the post game, where he's like, Hector knows how we want to play, knows how we want to do this stuff. And he does his job. You know, we don't have to get super cute. Sometimes you just have to have a scrum like that, where you can get a bounce, you can get a spill, you can get somebody not marking somebody, and Diego running on there and blasting that ball in the back of the net. So huge kudos to Hector for his impact immediately. And geez, man, that was the best 5-10 minutes we've had in a very, very long time. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, Hector giveth and Hector taketh away here. This is what starts it. Hector, clearance attempt, doesn't go nearly far enough out of that right side, deep in our own third here. Martinez brings it down, probably 15 yards outside of the box. He charges forward. John Gallagher is marking him, but Nathaniel Harriel overlapping Martinez on that right side. And Martinez finds him. He puts in a cross on the ground. Stuver spills it. And Mikel Ure is there to clean it up and tie the game. So the party lasted about 7 minutes and 6 seconds, something like that. Yeah. But I was upset when this goal happened because I think what I said to you was, there's no way on the scouting report that if you were in that situation that you don't go with Harriel. And maybe that's just not like your soccer principles, that you're just not going to leave whoever it is open 3 yards outside of the box there and get to have a clean shot on net. But I'm pretty sure Jose Martinez, been in this league a while, has one goal. Yeah. And like, I just think it's a more dangerous play to allow Harriel to get more space in for the cross. And it proved to be. And again, Martinez could have buried his second career MLS goal there if Johnny just leaves him. But I thought at the time he should have shaded more towards Harriel and kind of dared Martinez to take that shot.
I think that's a really fair evaluation of it. I know you had a bunch of thoughts on it last night, and like particularly when you take into account the fact that that's been part of our game plan is to let these dudes have shots from outside the box. And like if we want to take our chances with Bradley Scott Stuver back there, we're going to take our chances. And like there was plenty of times where we're playing St. Louis where we let Edward Leuven take a ripper without too much, pressure on him there. So I'd imagine Johnny's probably pretty amped up in that situation, coming off that goal, all that energy there. But you have to know personnel. You have to know personnel. Like that is a huge part of any game that you're going to be in. You got to understand habits, and that's a split-second decision, to be able to adjust, understand, visualize, see who's coming at you, and then be like, okay, I have to pull off this one. A good ball by Martinez, unfortunate spill by Stuve. And they got, that's a fortunate bounce for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Stuver is allowed one of those every 100 fucking shots that he sees. 67th minute here. You get a yellow card on Julio Cascante, and I think it was for dissent at the end of all this, but this was what you alluded to earlier. This is a horrible call by the head official. First of all, not trusting his AR there, who's right on the play, sees it, no foul because Julio got there. And it was a beautiful tackle. And then to compound your mistake by giving Julio a yellow, again, the officials, the scab refs, I don't think have affected the outcome of our games yet, but 6 red cards in 12 matches yesterday. This has to be fixed. And I know this conversation is everywhere. Most people are aware of what's going on with the officials and the replacement refs that we have here now and all of that. But it has to stop. It has to stop.
It is inexcusable. For him to give that yellow there is it's awful. I don't understand it. And it's just such a horrible look, man. And this is a super threatening position after a wonderful defensive play.
Yep. Well, we can keep it moving here. Again, bad call. Great job, Julio. I think he has been awesome to start the season.
Awesome.
70th minute here, yellow card to Jack Elliott for taking out Owen Wolf just outside of the box. Rigoni and Ring stand over it here, and Rigoni takes the shot well over the bar. Not another, I should say just another time where Rigoni has an opportunity to make something happen, and you just have to be better there, man. It can't be every cross can't be over everybody's head. Every shot can't be off frame, especially when there's nobody within 10 yards of you. Because it's a free kick. I don't know. It's just he again, I feel like we've given him the longest leash out of almost any Austin FC fan, I feel like. And it's just you have to bring more. And I know we're going to continue talking about Rigoni here, so I'll stop there.
I don't know how the call comes in to determine what set piece we're going to run or what communication has to happen. But you heard me there. Fucking let Rubio shoot it.
Yeah.
Let Rubio shoot it. He's the only dude who wants to shoot. And we're going to take this shot. I think that's just a huge mistake on whoever made that call. And if Rigoni called his own number, then he might have had a few at halftime, because I don't understand how you could have the confidence that you're going to be able to do anything remotely positive with this. And he doesn't, man. This is a threatening chance here. And we fall back on letting Rigoni take a shot. It was baffling to me.
Well, maybe we get some Sebastian Driussi free kicks in the near future, because 71st minute, Seba makes his season debut, coming on for Hadar Obrian, moving Owen Wolf out to the right. Of course, Seba staying centrally there. Ring hands him the armband, and we're off. We were sitting there 2-2 in the 70th minute. I can't think of a hardly better, at the beginning of the match, to be tied. We said, can we be within one? Tie would be happy, right? With where we were, with our best player coming in, making his debut. 73rd minute. I will say, his first touch, he nutmegs Martinez. Martinez takes him out. Seba's asking for a yellow. The way they were handing him out yesterday, like candy, I mean, he was already on one, but still. 73rd minute here. Austin wins a corner. Good link up to lead to that corner between Diego Rubio and Owen Wolf. You see Owen Wolf showing up a lot here in the notes. Corner gets whipped in. Julio gets it into the mixer. Philly heads it up into the air, and then Hector Jimenez tries the hero bicycle kick, goes out for a goal kick. But I appreciate the attempt there. You talk about feeling yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. He was definitely feeling good there.
81st minute here. Gazdag gets a yellow card for dissent. Then Zardes comes on for Rubio in the 82nd. 86th, Chris Donovan comes on for Quinn Sullivan. And 87th, yellow card for Damian Lowe, swinging his arm back into Owen Wolf's face. There was a lot of that, like just hitting guys high, hitting guys away from the play, dead ball. Like, and again, and we see 6 red cards across the league yesterday, and 1 doesn't come for Philly. I'm not calling for a red card, but again, there's no consistency across these matches with these replacement officials. I've read reports of people saying that they've got people in like the league office or whatever, the equivalent of like the NBA's Secaucus, right? The replay center, that they're like, some of the reason these calls are delayed is they've got people in the official's ear live saying that's a foul, fucking call it. And it's 3-4 seconds late. I don't know if that's true or not, but watching some of these matches, it sure feels like it. And again, it has to stop.
And look, it was definitely part of Philly's game plan to, again, put pressure on these refs to make calls. And there was all kinds. Like, obviously, we don't see the Diego play in the first half if he actually got hit or not, or he's just trying to sell something. But there was all kinds of physicality where dudes were actually hitting one another, like on dead balls and like getting a little like scrappy, because the ref, they don't have any respect for these dudes, and they shouldn't, because they're bad.
2 plays to finish this one out in stoppage time. 4th minute of stoppage here. Long throw for Austin on the far sideline from the broadcast camera. It gets cleared out to the top of the box. Rigoni takes a hit that goes just wide. One of his best plays on the night. And like, again, that says a lot about his form right now, that we're sitting here congratulating him for making solid contact and putting it 2 yards wide left. But like, that's the type of stuff we got to see from him. We don't need, it would be nice for him to go double digit goals, but he's never been a big goal scorer in his career. Right. And like, it's got to be better like that. It's got to be more solid, like look like a professional soccer player, at least an average MLS guy, which he hasn't been yet to this point of the season. And like, again, he's putting himself, he's getting into the right areas, and we're getting him the ball. And then his brain just fries. Like
he just does not want it, man. And like, nobody expects him to put every fucking shot in the back of the net. Nobody is asking for that. We're just asking for serviceable level MLS caliber play, which is not too much to ask from somebody who's making over $2 million a year on this club.
Next minute, Owen gets free center left on the break. Good pass from Ring to spring him there. Pretty good recovery and block here by Kai Wagner, who slides in to prevent the shot at the last second, gets it out for a corner. Austin gets nothing off that corner, and we do work it all the way back to Stuver, which draws groans from the crowd. And I get it, but we get it right back into the offensive half. And Driussi gets free off this long ball that's headed down to him. He takes a crack from like 5 yards outside the box, shoots it across the face of goal, just missed wide right. And again, if I'm going to give Driussi props here for missing 2 yards wide right, I got to give Rigoni, in a not too dissimilar scenario 1 minute before that, sending it 2 yards wide left. So again, Austin was fighting until the death here, can't get a winner, but they do end up 2-2, get a point off of the Philadelphia Union, who started a first choice lineup. And again, like, if I was on the team, then my mentality that it could have been worse would be a problem. But as a fan, I predicted a draw. So this is what I expected. And so the team met my expectations. I feel okay about it, especially with the context of how the game played out. I think the Kolmanich injury definitely messed up the substitutions where we could have seen an Ethan Finley, or maybe, for those out on that limb, a Jimmy Farcar-Loon. Like, it could have been somebody else. And so, like, the team rolled with the punches. They battled back, put themselves in a position to win, as coach is going to tell us here in a minute, and they didn't get it done. So again, not satisfied, but it could have been worse. And we got 3 points from these first 4 matches. And given who we've played, without Driussi until the 71st minute of last night, again, we are the whole point. I think most people with some sort of perspective on how the league works year to year, roster construction, any of that, came into the season saying, let's hold on, stay in touch with that playoff line, right? That 9 seed until the summer. We'll see what reinforcements Roto can bring in, and we'll see where we go from there. We're only 4 games in, right? So it's still way too early to really be looking at the standings. But we're 3 points out of the 4 seed in the West. So again, we could be on 0 points, which there are multiple teams in the league on 0 points right now. So again, the guys have been battling. The coaches have been adjusting. So I walked out of there feeling much better than I did a week ago when we dropped points in stoppage.
Absolutely. And I mean, like we talked about, this schedule, the start of it has been grueling, and the Minnesota loss is just, it is horrible. Because if you won that game and you're sitting on 6 points right now with 29 minutes of game time from 10 and the opponents we've played, let's just get this out of the way. Philadelphia is better than us. I don't think that, you don't have to be an expert in this game to understand that they are a more talented team. They are more well coached. They have a full identity. They've had this very difficult start to the season, but that has been compounded with their CCC schedule. Like I wouldn't expect to see this record from Philly if they were not involved in CCC and putting in that type of work versus those quality clubs. So like it is solid to get a draw here. And I know that draws are this kind of ambiguous, weird thing where we don't really know how to feel and everything like that. But the disaster that was that first half versus Minnesota is just really showing itself now, because you could be feeling really fucking good. And like you said, it could have been worse last night for sure. I'm not going to take that, because I thought that we played really, really well in regard to the context of everything that was going on and how that game played out. You go down early on a PK, no 10. We're not generating a lot of offense in that first half. So to be able to respond and to continue to fight, I do tip my hats to these dudes, because they're in it. Nobody feels the 1 win in 17 games more than those dudes. And I know they're biting at it. And like, once we break through and get that first win and it's finally off of our back, that's going to be wonderful. Unfortunately, the schedule going forward here is also quite unforgiving. So let's chat about 10 for a little bit. Clearly not in form, clearly not in shape. Wasn't really moving the way that I expected him to move when he came into the game. And I should have expected that, honestly, given how much time that he's missed at this point and the type of injury that he's dealing with. But man, we need him to be who he is sooner rather than later. And I'm encouraged for that for sure. Got Orlando City coming up here next, and it's going to be a fight, man. It's going to be a tough place to play. A team, again, that had high expectations coming into this season and have been struggling. So, I definitely tip my hats to most of these dudes for leaving it all out there, because the majority of them are. And with the outlier of Rigoni, I think that everyone else is really locked in and trying to get this team 3 points any way that we can. And you can't expect everything to go perfectly. You miss Danny with the Rubio play. You have this strike from Rigoni that goes a little sideways. So it's like, you can't expect all those things to go right. But what we have to expect to go right is our mentality when we're out there on the pitch fighting. So I definitely tip my hats to all those dudes, and keep up the good fight, y'all. Like, we can stay within striking distance coming into this summer window without having a super impressive record, particularly how this start of the season has gone for a lot of teams.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Minnesota, and I agree. Like we came in saying that was a must win. This is one of the easier games on paper on our schedule. Minnesota is currently first in the West, tied atop the Supporter Shield with Inter Miami.
Of course they are.
Again, we're only 4 games in, so it's way too early to be drawing conclusions. But they are, I think it's fair to say, the hottest team in the league right now, because you expected Miami to at least be in the mix up there. And Miami also has 1 more game played than anybody else in the league, and they're on 10 points. So points per game, it's Minnesota.
And I mean, that's because of that first game, really. Like, that was huge for them.
Yeah, but like draw defending champions Columbus, beat Orlando on the road, shut out LAFC at home last night 2-0.
Yeah, no,
They're
those are
not
quality
playing. I
wins.
mean, we were the cupcake on their schedule.
Yeah, those are quality. We'd be sitting on 6 if you win that game there.
For sure. That's math. Some other statistics here. 54% Austin possession last night. 18 shots to 13 in favor of Philly, but double-digit shots for Austin. The majority of those coming in that second half when you move Danny further back to help on the build up there. 7-2 on target in favor of Philly. 2 big chances for Austin, 1 missed. 5 corners to 5. Unfortunate for the bets there, E. So Philly sitting on 5 corners with about 35 minutes to go.
Yeah.
2.22 XG for Philly, 1.17 for Austin, but of course 0.79 of that for Philly is off the PK. And I did want to, just for tonight, let me navigate back to this box score here. If we can just isolate the second half stats here, I thought this was very encouraging. 1.21 XG for Philly. That's not great, but 1.03 for Austin. Outshot them 10-9, 4-1 on corners for Austin. And again, like, I just think you outplayed them in the second half. And it was nice to see 0.57 of that Austin XG in the second half comes from open play, 0.46 from set play. And we need to see more of that because was it last week, right? We had no XG from open play. And so again, you're seeing, I think week over week, there are improvements in various areas. And that at the end of the day is what you want to see from a team that none of us, and I was one of the highest that I saw outside of our boy Primo, picking him 6th. Like, we're right in line with expectations. Mm-hmm. So anybody acting surprised about the struggles that this team is going through with all the context surrounding this team in this season, I don't know, it feels just a little like misplaced. Like you just want to be angry or upset. And we've been plenty angry and or upset this season. But like after last night and thinking about the first month here, again, it could be way worse.
I totally agree. You look at these 4 games, man, and it's just like we've been in the mix, and we haven't had a lot of things go bounce the right way for us or go a right way for us and everything. But again, the improvement has been consistent, and I know the bar was incredibly low, and that needs to be said every single time because we can't just gloss over the fact that we played the worst half of soccer we've ever played as a team in that first half of the Minnesota game. But we're building an identity. We're trying to get these new guys acclimated. And to the credit to the coaching staff in regard to trying to get anything out of Emmy. Mm-hmm. And like you said a couple episodes ago, you can't warg into this dude and make him, score goals. But there has to be some sort of production from somebody else outside of Rubio on the offensive side of the ball. And that should be 10. But if we could get one more guy, hot air, getting on the stat sheet somewhere, because he's still, like you talked about his touches and obviously not having the best first touch, but he still creates an element on the offensive side of the ball that is dangerous. So I remain hopeful and faithful that we're going to keep putting this thing together, keep putting these pieces together, and we'll continue this improvement. But eventually you got to get 3 points.
Couple quotes from Coach Wolf after the match. He was, I think, predictably, right, a little frustrated, a little prickly there after what was probably, again, another in that locker room. I assume they're taking it as a disappointing result there to not pick up 3 at home again, where you're in position to win there with about a half hour left. He said we generated, 13 or 14 shots. This was in response to our boy Eric McCoy there from Club Deportes. Says, I don't know how many shots you want us to have. Obviously, we'd like to give up less. We'll keep working on it. The idea is to score goals and win games. Once again, we came out, we scored goals. We were in a position to win the game, and we didn't get it done. We've had 3 tremendous opponents, so I give my guys a lot of credit for what they've been able to do thus far. They talked about Hector. He said, I mentioned that we're a little shorthanded in certain areas. Fullback is definitely one of them. Winger is another one, which is leading into some comments he made a little later. He said, so I thought Hector came in. He did a great job. He has full understanding of what we're trying to do. And I think to your point, right, that's why Hector kind of keeps it simple out there. He knows he's been in the system this is his 4th year here now. He knows what he's supposed to be doing when he's out there, whether or not his body can keep up with his mind for, extended minutes if we have to use him in that type of fashion going forward with these injuries. But speaking of those injuries, he said Jean has a hamstring, so we'll have to see the severity of it. Leo has torn plantar fascia. Julio will be gone with the national team this coming weekend, so we're going to be up against it. He didn't mention this, but I think Danny Pereira also expected to miss this game. He says, we have who we have. We'll put together a game plan. We'll do our best to execute and come away with points again. And again, we'll preview the Orlando City match on Wednesday's episode. But I think I share those sentiments where, like, if we can construct a game plan to even get 8 points, much less 3, on the road here against a very talented and hungry, because they've been struggling a little bit, Orlando City team, I would love that again. And then we're back home for 2 after that.
I am definitely concerned with who we're going to be able to run out there next weekend. It is on my mind. This is now the point where we are thinnest with who's going to be available and ready to play. I don't know if we're going to have to do some sort of formational switch to get the players out there that we need to have out there. And again, you kind of have to figure out how you want to roll the dice with 10 here. How much time is worth it? Because nothing is guaranteed. Even if you get them out there, you go up 2-0 or whatever, you can still drop that game, and then you just wasted that. So that's going to be a decision that they're going to have to make and ultimately live with the results. But again, encouraged with a lot of things that this team has done so far. And if we keep that fight up and we keep that tenacity level up, then we're going to find ourselves in the mix quite often. And again, I said it last week when we came off that St. Louis game there, that, you play that way more often than not, you're going to win games. So let's put this one behind us and get ready for Orlando. And I'm looking forward to it.
Last thing I wanted to touch on here from the post-match press conference was the rhetoric from Coach Wolf when asked about Emiliano Rigoni. I thought this was pretty fucking scathing here. In the way he talked about it, the words he uses here, he says, Emmy's going to be a product of how we can bring the game to him. First half, the relationship between our fullbacks and attacking mids needed work, and we made the change at the half, and it was instantaneous. The better we can bring the game to those guys, the more impactful they can be. Here's where I want to focus on this. He says, I still think Emmy. There's glimpses where there's hope. Ultimately, you have to produce, and we're hopeful he'll produce. Right now, it's hope, but he needs to help this team score goals. He needs to create chances. We challenge him in many ways. It's not from not working hard, but you got to make plays. You got to make an impact. We got to keep pushing him. And holy shit, man. Like, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but the fact that the coach is coming out and saying there's glimpses where there's hope.
If that's
we hope he'll produce for us. Right now, it's hope. So if that is where it's bubbled over, because he could have been way more frontward facing with he sucks right now, and he wouldn't go that far, but for it to be to this point where he is so clearly frustrated with the lack of production from Rigoni, and these guys, they all see it in the locker room. I'm sure, again, they're obviously pushing him to be better and to continue, because at least until the summer and probably through the rest of the season, we have to rely on Rigoni at the bare minimum to be a productive substitute, right? But again, the guy should be starting and should be mostly a 90-minute player for us. And it is so out of whack from where not just the expectations are, but just the requirements in this league with the designated player slots and what those guys have to bring. And if you miss on them, and again, this is not breaking news, but this is not even a miss right now. Because again, it ebbs and flows throughout somebody's contract, how the team feels about him, how the fan base feels about him, and all that. This is, in my opinion, absolute rock bottom to this point for Rigoni. And it sucks because I don't think this is as low as it can possibly go. It's just the lowest we've seen to this point.
Now, that's scary to think about. I mean, if the best thing a coach can say about a DP player is that he gives us glimpses of hope, I don't know how else you can really take that other than we are at our wits' end with this dude. And the excuses, obviously, we've said it multiple times that we've had a long leash with him and everything. And that you have to, when you bring somebody into a system new and to try to get them acclimated. But that is now out of the window. He has been here for a long enough time to understand what we need from him, to understand how this team wants to play and what we should be able to expect from him. And he has missed at every single target on every single level. And it is just unacceptable. It is unacceptable on his end. You got to have some pride. You got to have some dignity in like who you are as a man, as a player, to be like, I'm not putting this shit out here anymore. I am going to do something different. Like, fuck, man, I'd be excited if he took somebody out and got a yellow card. Like, 100%. At least you give us a little, like it's not a productive thing, but at least you're showing some fight here, man. So it is incredibly frustrating. I can't even imagine how frustrated the coaching staff is with him. I can't even imagine how frustrated the other players are with him, because at this point, it feels like this man has just been ostracized by the rest of the team, and rightfully so, because he just hasn't, he either isn't willing to buy into what we're trying to do, and that could be a larger scenario with the coaching staff and how things have gone with certain players and the perception that some guys have. But like, man, you got to have some pride in who you are and what you do for a living, and like be able to be better and like just flat out be better. So to not be able to have a DP that you can just rely on, like the bar we have set for him is so fucking low too, man. You score one time, people are going to lose their minds.
Well, and I don't get the impression that it's a lack of like a buy-in thing with him, right? It's just the lack of being able to execute, go out there and do what you're supposed to do. What we've seen from you, like even if he was early 2023 Rigoni, which was very average at best, that is still such an improvement over what we've seen to start the season.
That is another more concerning thing, is he's gone backwards.
Yeah.
He has gone backwards this season.
Yeah.
And there isn't too much more room to, keep reversing that car, my friend, until it's just off the cliff.
Well, we will move forwards here, leave the Philadelphia draw in the rearview mirror. We will preview the Orlando City match on Wednesday's episode, but we're not done here on Sunday night, because before we get to last business day, we got to check in on
the best keeper in the world.
Damian Lasky makes his USL debut on Saturday afternoon against El Paso Locomotive. Plays the full 90 after getting the start, racks up 6 saves in the 1-0 clean sheet victory. So congrats to Damian on a awesome debut there. Unsurprising, of course, to all of the Austin FC faithful, but I don't think it couldn't have gone much better. I think six saves and a clean sheet.
Absolutely. And, we had a discussion about it last night, and he's pushing Bradley Scott Stuver
from afar, right?
He is pushing him from afar, and he's making more of an impact on our team than Rigoni is at this point in time. That's how bad Rigoni is. Like, we have a dude in USL who's a keeper who's having a greater impact on our team, because Bradley Scott knows he's on his heels.
Yeah.
He knows what the kid is capable of, and he has elevated his game. This is the best form we've seen from Bradley in a long time. And he's been great consistently. So like, I love it from that standpoint. I love it for Damian. I'm so excited. I installed the FOTMob app on my phone today. Hit that Louisville, hit that follow.
Yeah.
Going to be keeping tabs, man. I'm really excited for that. So kudos to him and shout out for that.
Up next for Louisville, a date in Pittsburgh against the Riverhounds and Jackson Valty and EJ Johnson and Chris Bankrum. So we'll be paying attention there. Good luck to all those guys, but mostly the one that's still on our team on Louisville.
We could keep, you can keep the grill master. If you can keep him quiet, I'll be happy to see that.
Let's talk last business day here, because as we predicted, and again, it had to come, right? Austin FC 2 announcing the full roster to begin this season on Thursday afternoon. In addition to the players that we already knew were on this roster, Micah Burton was officially loaned down to FC 2 as expected. And then CJ Fodre was also loaned down on Thursday morning. Josh said that CJ's path back to minutes on the first team following his preseason injury was through minutes with FC 2. I was confused by that, and I still am a little bit, because CJ was active on the bench for the first 2 matches of this season. After watching him on Friday night, he definitely doesn't look like he's in the best shape we've ever seen him in. So maybe that is just what's going on there. It could also obviously have something to do with maybe somebody like Jimmy coming in and pushing CJ for that time. But CJ right now, currently going to be playing with FCito for the foreseeable future.
And I mean, I just want him to have a good rehab process to get back into form, because look, there is an opportunity on this first club for him, because there's time to be had on these wing positions. And eventually you might just have to cut Rigoni out entirely from this situation and be like, brother, we'll bring you in on the 80th minute if we need to. Like if it's bad case scenarios.
Need to do what? Send balls into the fucking stands?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, run this clock out.
Yeah.
So there is time. There's opportunity to be had for this first team, and I know CJ's had a bit of a frustrating start to his career here, and he's had some untimely and unfortunate injuries. And I know we're all excited and we're all pulling for him. So good to see him back out there. But like you said, clearly not the CJ that we have grown to love on the side there. But that'll come. That'll come.
Yeah, just like it did last year, right? Preseason injury, a little bit of a slow start, grew into it, and MLS Next Pro champion. We also got 6 amateur agreements from members of the Austin FC Academy. All 6 of these guys have previously competed for the U17s. So we got defenders Drake Fournier, Mason Miller, winger Luke Spadafora, forward Joe Arena, defender Gavin Wolf, and then Spencer Sanderson, who obviously we've seen with FCito before, made his one start last year at North Texas SC. But there's a Wolf, there's a Reina available for FCito. And then we can go ahead and get right into the lineup for this one against Tacoma Defiance. 8 Austin FC Academy products active for FCito the other night. We had kind of speculated for a while now, right, that Roto's going to take this second team in a very, kind of accelerate the youth movement here, figure out what we've got and all of that. So in this starting lineup, we did have Marcus Alstrup in goal. Anthony Deonda did get the start at left back. Of course, Sally Maz, Tony Gomez there as the center back pairing. It ended up being Steve Louis-Jean, who's now wearing the 8, at right back, with Alonso Ramirez at the 6. In front of him, Brian Arellano, then Micah Burton, of course, now wearing the 32, which is his first team number. CJ out there on the left, Anthony Garcia on the right, and Sebastian Pignot up top. Bench, Cervantes, obviously the backup keeper, Chris Garcia, Gavin Wolf, John Santillan, Drake Fournier, Joe Arena, Luke Spadafora, and Mason Miller. So a bench of basically Garcia, Santillan, Cervantes, and Academy. Did you have any thoughts on this lineup? I have a couple, but I'll let you start.
I think you hit the nail on the head there with your assessment on how this club is going to be treated now. It is going to absolutely be a youth movement project where we are trying to get time and minutes and development out of teenage players. But with that being said, I do think that there's a lot of talent on this team. So I'm obviously a big Micah fan. Obviously CJ is great. Sebastian has been fantastic in his time here. Looking at that back line, Sally Maz, kind of the head of that unit now. We had Cap and Joe last year and Kippy thrown into the mix as well. And it's kind of fallen on Sally Maz to be the leader back there. So I'm excited for him and to be in that opportunity. But I'll let you get into your thoughts about it.
Just my thoughts were more just about who was not there. We did not see Bobo active. We did not see Sheikh Touré active. And then Ruben Bonachera also missing from the active roster on Friday. So, I guess it's just kind of something to watch here. We do have, of course, a match to preview here for FCito as well, coming up on Tuesday in the Open Cup. So we'll see what happens there lineup-wise, and we'll go ahead and get into this one for a quick breakdown. Neither of us were able to make it out to the celebration. Awesome tifo. Everybody who was involved with that, big ups again. You guys don't miss. There is now under that brand new scoreboard, which looked pretty sharp, a big championship banner there on the fence. So you love to see that. And even we can admit here on the North End podcast that when you go to Parmer, it's about that South End where that banner's hanging. So come out defending in the 4-4-2. So not much has changed here with FC To. We really just saw that defensive change in the alignment with the first team to start this year. 3rd minute here. Just a couple notes I took. CJ gets free down the left. Great pass in the box. Right to Micah above the spot. Keeper makes a nice save to keep it level. There was, I will just say this kind of as, I guess, an overarching takeaway. This team, I think, obviously skewing younger, a lot of new faces. Certainly in the early part of the season, I don't think we're going to see the same type of success that we did as last year. Like you mentioned, there's still plenty of talent on this team, and it takes time to gel. And I think that's okay, right? Like this team can still compete at a very high level in this league without being up there worried about how many points back are we of the 1 spot in Next Pro,
Yep.
And this Tacoma side too, obviously they reloaded and they have some very talented guys. In the 24th minute, Manungu, who was, I thought, a big threat down that left, gets a great look off a pass from the announcer was calling him Batch. This guy's last name is spelled like Batache almost. But it goes out for a second straight corner. And again, the Austin new look back line there with Steve and Tony and Anthony Deanda there on the left, holding up here throughout the first half.
I mean, and like you said, like there's been heavy rotation here, and we had grown-ass man Cap and Joe on that back line last year who was, just absolutely the anchor of everything we were doing. The guy was just fantastic. And now we have these younger guys out there and everything like that. But the defensive principles are still ringing true for this club and then what we want to do and how we're going to play teams. So, yes, I agree. Very encouraging.
I had a couple notes here to close out the half. One is in the 41st minute.
41th. Spear of the head.
Anthony Garcia, our new number 7, showing off some speed. Nothing ultimately comes of this, but able to put it around the defender, sprints around him on the other side, picks the ball back up. I think that's one thing that I came away with in terms of Anthony Garcia after this first game. He's got some speed there on the right. Yellow card in the 48th minute to a Tacoma player. I didn't catch the last name there, but crunching tackle on Alonso. Glad he was able to get up, dust himself off. And then 52nd minute, I believe, we get a second yellow card and a red card, of course, subsequent red card for Sebastian Pignot. I know you saw this replay. I don't know what he's doing there. For those who didn't see, Austin on the attack, Tacoma rather, keeper picks it up. He's sprinting towards the top of the box, and both Sebastian Pignot and Anthony Garcia try to impede his progress. Keeper takes some contact, goes down. I thought from the broadcast it could have been called on either guy, but at the end of the day, I'm not complaining because Sebas, you got to get out of there, bro. You're on a yellow, and I just think that was just to not sugarcoat it, it was a boneheaded play that ended up costing his team the game.
You can't put yourself in that position. You can't put your team in that position to be without you. One of our best players out there, obviously a leader now because he's been around the system. He's performed well. So that's definitely something he would want back for sure. Who is there? Do we know who's reffing these games?
I think it's also replacement refs. I would think, right?
Nice.
It ain't PRO.
That's great, man. That's just
I don't know that answer to be certain, but that's my best guess. 59th minute, credit to Anthony Deanda, saves one off the line here to keep it level, but in the 67th, Falling hits the crossbar. Nice attempt from the right side of the 18. Allstrip dives, unable to recover to keep out the headed follow-up by Hawkins. So 1-0. 8 minutes later, Manungu again taking off down that left. He's got plenty of space with Austin down a man and pushing up, trying, Austin FC 2 was still fighting in this match. And I came away very encouraged by that. They did not hang their heads after that mistake and being, behind the 8 ball here, so to speak. But then Batch able to one-time it off the cross from Manungu there inside the far post, 2-0.
Can't do nothing with that. Great strike by that kid. With the left foot on the ground, low, right in the pocket corner, hell of a strike.
Yeah. But then 83rd minute, Brian Ariano, Absolute rocket. Alone on the right side of the box, well marked, makes a quick move towards the inside, dumps one inside the far post with that left foot. Pretty amazing strike for the few that we've seen out there, your Velas last year, your Micahs and the like. But 2-1 with some time left and the crowd at their back. This game was not over.
Yeah, it's still hard with 10 though. You're down a man there. You're trying to fight back. Like obviously, you're not going to just throw in the flag and just take the loss. But still a big hill to climb.
Yeah, 86th minute. Cross comes in from the right. Austin was on the break here. It takes 2 bounces in the box before falling to the feet of Chris Garcia, who had recently subbed on. He can't connect cleanly. The keeper ends up gobbling it up. But again, Austin FC still threatening there late on. Garcia and Santillan were the only 2 guys that came off the bench, so we didn't get the new academy guys out there. And then 4th minute of stoppage here, Kosarienzi breaks down the right side, fires a shot at Alstrup. I think this was the only real big mistake that he made on the night, spills this. And then Miglietti finished off that rebound, and that's the game, 3-1. But again, those guys battled, kept it level. Red card changed the game, and they still continued to fight, and we're not out of it until the very, very end. So, again, back at it on Tuesday. Anything else for you on this game?
You got a big target on your back now, boys. Defending champs, everyone's going to want a piece of you. Everyone's going to want a shot. So we're just going to have to take what we can from this game, improve, build upon it, and hopefully be able to play 11 dudes going forward.
Yeah, and that next team that's going to take aim at FCito comes in the form of Foro SC out of the UPSL. This is Tuesday night kickoff. 8 p.m. out there at Parmer, first round of the U.S. Open Cup. A little bit more on Foro, and rather not really about them. They're a club out of the Dallas area. More about UPSL here, if you're unfamiliar, as we were until about an hour ago. UPSL, United Premier Soccer League, is a for-profit organization. It was founded in Santa Ana, California, in 2011. It's got regionalized conferences at first for teams in the greater LA area, but has now expanded to include over 400 teams from 41 states as of 2022, recently added teams from both Canada and Mexico. There are 2 UPSL seasons played each year, with regional play culminating in a playoff system that crowns a single national champ each season. The league features internal promotion and relegation with up to 3 levels in certain regions. Only clubs in the top-tier Premier Division are eligible to compete for the UPSL National Championship. So Foro SC, a member of that Premier Division in the UPSL, and not a ton of information on who the hell they have on their roster. So I know I am excited to go out, see this FCito team live for the first time this season, and hopefully get a U.S. Open Cup win under their belt.
That would be awesome. This league just seems really interesting, man. When you said there's 400 teams involved, and I went and checked out the standings and everything, and you see all these different clubs. It was really cool to just to think about how fun that league potentially could be. So maybe another FOP mob follow, but we'll see.
All right, one thing left to do, score predictions. Open Cup first round against Foro SC. How much is Austin FC2 winning by on Tuesday?
I think we're going to go ahead and win that game 3-2. I think we're going to struggle defensively still with the large losses that we've had on the personnel side of the ball, as well as the downgrade, which is not a shot at Marcus Alstrup. This is not a shot at him by any means, but it's a downgrade from what we had last year, the best keeper in that league. So I think we're going to be able to concede some more goals. But you saw the threatening prowess of this offense, and when you add in arguably our best goal scorer right now, being able to play the majority of that game and Sebas, then I can see us putting 3 behind there.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. So I think both of us expecting that offensive bounce back and maybe not a clean sheet. We'll take a clean sheet, and we just want to advance, boys. Survive and advance here in the Open Cup. Can't wait for it. Tuesday night, Parmer Field, 8 p.m. kick, and that'll do it for episode 126 of the North End podcast. We are back on Wednesday previewing Austin FC's road tilt against Orlando City SC, recapping the Open Cup match against Foro and previewing FC To's next match. Of course, the nonsense and everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Anything else for you before we get out of here?
Nope. Looking forward to the Orlando match. Let's try to pull something off that, shocks the league a little bit.
Absolutely. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. We will do the same, and we will see you back here on Wednesday night. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.